measure net. And today we're going to be talking with Max Fiedler. He's the shop teacher at Darby High School in Darby, Montana. And he's going to share with us how they make their fishing nets. Max, how did you get into making the fishing nets?
Well, I've been here at Darby for 7 years, and fly fishing is a big thing in this area. A lot of kids are into it. So a few years ago we decided we'd try to make some wooden fishing nets, which led us to doing some research, building a steam bender.
Okay.
Then we got a hold of you with the measure net right here in Darby.
Right.
And we started making some nets, so it's been a lot of trial and error, but I think we're getting pretty tuned up.
Well, that's great. Let me have you take us through some steps on the first things you do when you start making the nets and how you bend the wood, and then we'll end up with how we put the measure net on the frame.
Sounds great. So first thing, I was building the steam bender, and we just used some 4-inch Schedule 40 PVC pipe.
And you can get this at any hardware store, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and most of the hardware that comes with it. The one side has an end cap that's closed off. This side is threaded, so we can take this on and off. In doing so, we can take our thin laminates of wood. Some of my favorites for bending are ash, hackberry, and black walnut. We've also done a little bit with cherry.
Okay.
But the hackberry, the ash, and the walnut seem to do the best. For laminated nets, such as some of these ones where you've got multi-colors in there,
right.
We try to go anywhere from 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch on our thickness.
Okay.
On a solid frame like these ones, we can go up to 3/8 of an inch thick on a bend. So
Okay.
pretty thick.
Great. And so you just take these strips of wood, and how many can you?
I usually do about 6 of them at a time. So
Okay.
if allow me to do 2 nets, a 3-lamb net, and then you just slide them in the end. Once this thing is all hot, we've got steam running through it.
Right.
Steam coming in here. All I'm using is a outdoors propane burner.
Right.
And do whatever you choose for a boiling pot. I use the old metal gas can.
Okay.
And I modified, and then propane
Right.
for your fuel.
And how long does it take?
Once you've got steam rolling through, you'll see it coming out a little vent hole at the end, right on top there.
Right.
Once that steam starts coming through, put your pieces in, and it's 15 to 25 minutes depending on the thickness
Okay.
of the material.
And then what's the next step?
So once we've got our pieces bent, we've created these forms out of MDF,
Okay.
medium density fiberboard. You could probably do them out of plywood or something solid too, but this is easy, fairly inexpensive,
Right.
easy to cut. We did these ones on our CNC router
Okay.
here at the school.
Or you could probably just cut them out on a jigsaw
You
too.
can cut them out with a jigsaw or a bandsaw or hand route them.
Okay.
Lots of different options there.
Okay.
Leave the inside of them hollow so that it allows us to clamp.
Okay. So when you glue everything together, you clamp it all around that, and it'll set up.
Yep, so even before that step, once these are steamed, ready to go, you probably have, I would say at tops 30 seconds
Okay.
to work with it,
Okay.
where it's still in a fairly rubberized form.
Okay.
And what I'll do first is I use these quick grip clamps.
Right.
They're really handy, quick adjustment, and you can adjust down really fast, easy for the kids to use. So I'll pull my piece out of there, out of the steam bender, and then take the approximate middle of it and just put it to the middle of my form, and then I'll throw a clamp on that. And then from there, it's easy enough that you can bend
Right. All the way around.
all the way around your form.
Okay. And then clamping in different areas.
You can clamp as you go. Yep. I try to get it pretty close first by hand, and then make sure you got one towards the bottom. And then you just let it sit for a few minutes.
Okay.
I usually throw some tape around the end. Here's a few that we did. This was just a 2-lamb one that we did.
Okay.
But we bent both pieces at the same time, threw some tape around, and then I just hang them to dry for a little while.
Right.
And then they're ready from there to go get glued up.
Okay. And you glue them and clamp them as you go, or you can you glue them around the jig as well?
Yep. So this is all done without any glue. The first step.
Right.
Then we let it dry, and then Then we can put it back around the form, glue our first laminate, put the second one around, and then clamp from the top middle.
Right, all the way down. Right.
Evenly on both sides
Right.
as we go around to the bottom. At which point we also put in our handle piece.
Okay.
We've got some short handle ones.
Okay, I see that.
The handle piece.
And
right
the handles can be laminate or single piece, anything
Either.
you want to do, right?
Whatever
Okay.
you want to do, as long as they're symmetrical
Right.
and uniform. These were long handle ones.
Right, for big boat nets, right?
Big boat nets. Yep. This one happens to be a piece of curly maple.
Okay. Yeah, that's a beautiful.
Yeah.
piece of
Thank
wood.
you. Handle can be whatever you want it to be, as long as it fits this radius on your form, and
Right.
it's not doesn't flare out too much, because
Right.
that'll make it difficult when your net comes down.
Right, yeah, when you're putting on the measure net.
Yep,
Right.
you don't want it too wide right at the bottom.
And so after you get it all clamped up and glued up and get the handle on, do you do any sanding or anything finishing? How do you finish it?
So once I've got this thing all clamped, handles on there, I'll set it to the side. I like to at least wait overnight for all the glue to dry.
Right,
Take the clamps off, just because there's some pressure and tension in there. So
Right.
at least 12 hours, 24 is even better. You take the clamps off, then we'll take this and put it through a drum sander.
okay,
If you don't have a drum sander, you can just clamp it to the table and use a belt sander
right,
to even everything out.
okay,
Then you'll have some, your ends may not be exactly the same length, so you can trim those. On these, we just take it to the bandsaw to do a nice taper cut.
Right.
Finish that out. On the shorter ones, the hoop goes all the way to the end.
into the
Yep,
handle,
and we
right.
just cut that off on the bandsaw and belt sand it.
great. So at what point do you put when you're finished with it, do you put the net on? I mean, how do you determine size? Is that all done with the jigs?
Yep, so
Okay.
we've got some different size jigs. Yep, our small, medium, large. We have a bigger one that'll fit your junior guide size net.
So you make really big nets too?
We can make some really big ones too.
Great,
The only thing with the really big ones is you need a longer bender. So the
Okay.
small, medium, and large work great with the 6-foot pipe.
okay.
If you get into the junior guide or any bigger than that,
You have a
guide
much
size net,
longer,
you have to have a little bit longer. This one's 6 feet long. 6 feet
Okay.
works great with
Okay.
a little bit of extra for small, medium, and large.
And most schools that we've talked to do the small, medium, and large. We haven't had hardly any do the really big ones, but
Yeah.
you guys have tackled that real
We
well.
have
Done real
we've
well.
done a few custom orders with that.
Okay.
Been kind of cool. Those nets, those look pretty neat.
And how many students do you have here in your class?
Average class ranges from anywhere from 6 students up to 16. So
Okay.
just depends on the class. Average class size maybe 12 kids. It works great. I can have some on the table saw ripping pieces, some sanding,
Right.
some bending,
Okay.
some gluing, some clamping, some on the final phases of the bandsaw work and the routing,
Okay.
finish sanding, and then from there the finishing.
So what happens to the nets once they're done? Do the students keep them, or do you?
We've been taking these and been selling them as a fundraiser for the
Okay.
school. It's
Fantastic.
taking some profits, putting it back into the program for new equipment, and also to be able to do more nets and more materials. Just kind of keep the program
That's
rolling
fantastic.
that way. Yeah, it's been really good, especially in a rural area like this where fishing's a big thing.
I've even seen them in some of the fly shops around here. So
Yep.
that's a
Sold
really
to
good
the
deal.
fly shops, some of the dude ranches, all over the place.
Okay, so what is the advantage that the MeasureNet gives to you and your students in making the fishing nets? Because most fishing nets are laced on, and I know that's a big project
Yep.
to do, and sometimes that causes problems in the integrity of the actual frame.
Yep. So, a couple things, like you said, the time in our stitching netting on, it saves us so much time there. We've got our finished wooden frame,
Right.
and all we have to do is zip the net on.
Right.
They also have the nylon one. Some people really like those. It's nice, easy to pack.
Right.
Some people are particular about the rubberized netting.
Right.
This is pretty handy. Catch and release, nice, easy on the fish.
And I'm just going to show how easy it is to zip one of these net backs on. You just put it on the frame, and it just zips all the way around. And once it's all the way around and done, it fits on. It's really nice and easy.
Yep.
And it, like you said, it saves a lot of time. And I've noticed on a lot of, talked to a lot of other net makers, and they say the most critical part is when all these holes are drilled on the outside to lace the nets on, that's where you're going to get your failures.
Yep.
And I know some.
This eliminates that.
Yeah, that eliminates all the failure in the frame, makes them stronger, last longer, and all that kind of thing. So,
Yep.
Well, Max, is there anything else you'd like to add? Do the students like the project?
Students love the project. We get phone calls all the time. People just having rave reviews about the product. We've been in contact with Trout Unlimited. We've been doing some nets for them for their local banquet.
Fantastic.
It's been awesome community outreach project too. So.
Hey Max, I see this is a net that you've made. It's a completed net, and it looks like it hasn't been finished.
Yep.
And it's beautiful. You can see the different laminates. This has what, 3 laminates?
Yep. So this one actually has the handle is hackberry,
Okay.
and then we've got cherry on the outsides, and that's ash in the middle. So.
Oh yeah, there's 2 outsides. That's
Yep.
great. So this is one that has been finished, and so this one, as you can see, what do you use to finish it?
Ideally, a marine lacquer.
Okay.
Something
Something that helps
Yeah.
make sure the water won't get through it.
that can be fairly expensive. What works just as well, maybe not quite as a industrial finished look, but still does a nice job if you put a few coats on it. It's just a exterior polyurethane.
Okay.
So that's what this one is. This
Okay.
is just 3 coats of exterior polyurethane.
Great.
If you really wanted to shine it up more, then 5, 6 coats.
Right.
Standing in between.
It just depends on what the student wants, right?
Yep. Another cool look on this one. This is just a nylon string, and we've done a wrap on the handles
And
for
that's
that
more
kind
for
of
grip,
adds
right?
for a nice grip. Some people really like that.
Okay.
Yep.
And so how long does it take for your students to complete one of these nets?
It depends on the instructor and depends on class time.
Okay.
So I have 52-minute periods 7 times a day,
Right.
where I teach 6 different classes.
Okay.
So when I do a manufacturing class, when my manufacturing class is in here, I've got approximately 10 kids,
Right.
sort of setting it up depending on what their skills are and their abilities. I try to place them to a different job. So maybe this one's running the table saw, this one's doing some finish work, one's doing the bending.
Right.
I would say probably 10 kids could get through 10 nets in 2 weeks once you get the system polished up.
That's great. 2 weeks is a good amount of time. It allows the teachers to do more than just the net job.
Yes.
But it gives, and sometimes the students will keep their nets, right? If it's their project.
Exactly, yep. If they want to pay for the materials,
Right.
then the net's theirs, makes an awesome gift.
That's phenomenal.
Lifetime kind of
Well,
piece.
we really appreciate your help. Glad to see that you're doing well with this project.
Thank you.
Bye.